Well, hello everybody. We're back for another concert in the community, and I'm joined by three very fine gentlemen tonight who have been great friends of mine for quite some time, and really looking forward to sharing presenting duties with them and chatting all things Bond. Good to see so many people watching live, and if you got any questions, do fire them in. We'll be able to bring them into this stream and answer them as we go. But let me introduce you to my fellow presenters tonight. As you can see them on your screen, I hope. Top right is Chris Wood of Bond on Vinyl. Say hi, Chris.
Hello. Hi, Chris.
Chris, tell us briefly about you and where you come from and what Bond on Vinyl is, and we'll do a little bit more later on, but just give us a brief intro.
Yeah, so I'm in North Wales, and I like to share my Bond record collection on Instagram and do the occasional guitar cover. That's me in a nutshell.
Yes, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into one of those covers later. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with our little community here. Frank Wilson, a big supporter and friend of our show, and of course you have your fabulous What's the Score podcast. Tell us a bit more about that.
Oh, thank you. I've had a lifelong affair with film music, and in particular, it started with James Bond and it started with John Barry. And so a few years ago, I decided, you know what, here's a passion of mine. I'd love to share more about it. I'd like to hear what other people think about film music. So I started the podcast, and I'm actually very proud of it. Got a very exciting guest coming up soon. And it's been a great fun to be able to put on. Really, I've enjoyed it very much. And the people that I've met as a result.
Good. Well, yeah. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about What's the Score in a little bit. Don at the bottom, Don Zuiderman of the 00 Files podcast, another long-term friend of mine from the community. You have a fabulous podcast. Tell us a bit about what you do and how you come to be here today.
Well, you invited me. I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful you asked me.
First and second choices weren't available.
When I'm on video, because I'm only used to doing audio, and then I have the power of editing. So I'm a bit like a fish out of its bowl right now. So if I'm actually looking over my shoulder, I'm sorry. But it's wonderful to be here. I'm still enjoying doing the podcast. We're one of the, I believe, 2075 James Bond podcasts out there, and we try to think of anything that's not been covered already, which is pretty much impossible, I'll tell you, but it's good fun. And I have a brief shout out, Tom, I love you too, man. Thank you. Tom is my best mate that I met in Peace Gloria, so there you go.
Yeah. And I have to also say, at least two of the four of us definitely have a danger of young children running in at any time during this podcast, or at least screaming in the other room. So if you do hear young children sounding like they're being murdered, please don't worry. Please don't call the authorities. It's not that. They're all right. They're okay, and they're being watched. But
and one very vocal dog, I might add.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Two vocal dogs. Yeah.
We've got a full house of nutcases then. That's all good. Well, let's have a little bit more music then, and we're going to chat a bit more afterwards. First up, Don, what have you got for us?
Oh, it's my... You didn't give me the set list, Warren.
Just bring it on you.
Oh, can we start with some John Barry?
Yeah, what do you want?
Oh, what I really like, because you sent this massive list, and I was scrolling through it, and this one track has... I read the words, and I thought, if I'm going to say the track title, everybody knows exactly what scene I'm talking about. It's absolutely brilliant. This is one of the best shot, edited, and musically added to by John Barry in the whole series, in my opinion. We're going to listen to Fight at Kobe Docks.
Excellent.
That's
Here we go.
Brilliant.
Very nice.
Just
Very
loading. Ah, such a great choice.
Absolutely
It's just brilliant.
stunning.
It's just brilliant. The moment you hear that music, you can follow the scene in your mind's eye. It's amazing. And remember, this is now, what, 54 years ago? And
Yeah.
maybe the director said something like, okay, let's do a one-shot. It's like, what? This is incredible. And then getting that footage, what was John Barry thinking? Like, okay, how am I going to score this?
Interestingly, Gergely Hubai, who I do a podcast with, he knows the Bond music, how it was edited and everything inside out. And he was saying that track in particular is edited to death from what John Barry originally wrote. It's one of those things that the scores get written and then and they get recorded, but when it comes to fitting it to what's actually on screen, they have to be chopped up a little bit. So
That's quite frustrating for the composer.
It must be really, but the end result, I mean, it is awesome. A stunning track. Frank, what about you? Are you a big fan of You Only Live Twice? You're muted. Hang on.
Know that, Warren. To me, it is that the title song, which of course was included in that last cue you just played, is one of the most gorgeous themes ever written.
Yeah.
One of the highlights, but this is going to sound strange. One of the highlights of my life was my 23-year-old daughter saying, "Daddy, I want to play you something on the piano." Oh. And she played You Only Live Twice. I could not believe it.
Yeah.
And it's just, it never got the recognition it deserved. Maybe it was because of Nancy Sinatra. I don't know. But that theme is just glorious. Just
It
glorious.
really is.
Yeah. I think it's the most beautiful theme tune in the series. But I think the thing is that we probably all gravitate a little bit more towards the adrenaline pumpers, you know, I think. Or the big numbers like Goldfinger and what have you. I agree with you. I don't think You Know Twice gets the credit it deserves. Chris, what about you?
I mean, I absolutely adore it. And my pick also comes from the same soundtrack. So we weren't given each other's choices. So this is quite interesting that there's so much You Only Live Twice love going around, which is lovely to see.
Yeah. I mean, you're a bit. So tell us a bit about the vinyl side of things, because you're obviously a proper old school with this. Like, you've got literally every soundtrack on vinyl, haven't you?
Yeah.
And
it's just a lovely thing. Yeah, it came about from just my family put me onto vinyl. My grandmother introduced me to the Blue Beatles album, which is sort of their greatest hits album. And I remember being, I don't know, like 14, 15 and being blown away of having this huge thing in your hand that is, you know, a piece of music, but it's like this big. It's like a tangible thing after being used to an MP3 player for so long. Exactly, yeah. So I'm obsessed with it. It's an unhealthy obsession. You live on the websites. You pay way more than you should ever pay for a record. Luckily, Erin never finds out what I pay. But yeah, it's just a lovely thing to collect, you know. And then when you stand back and look at your collection, it feels fantastic.
Yeah. What about playing? I mean, what about a sort of side-by-side comparison? I mean, I must admit, I've never heard any of the Bond soundtracks on vinyl, and I heard some vinyl recently for something else, and the recording quality was absolutely amazing. Like, I haven't been exposed to much vinyl. Yeah, and certainly not since my childhood, and the difference is ridiculous, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And like the more modern pressings are sort of a little bit more refined, and they're on sort of what's called heavyweight vinyl, and you can hear that they sound slick. I mean, if you're picking up I've got You Only Live Twice from the 60s, and it's sort of battered and stuff, but that's the appeal of it. You know what I mean? That's the charm. Yeah. It's like when I play guitar, and if you get a beat up guitar, it's got a bit of character to it. It's got a life to it. And I think it's the same with picking up a record. You know, it's if it's got someone's name, you know, like Dave 1972, where he's had it in uni or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's got a life behind it, and I think that's a cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Frank, you're up next for a pick. So where are you going to take us to?
Wow, let's see. I was reminded of. Sorry, got to plug the program again. A program I had put together was an interview that I actually had with John Barry in 1981.
I was going to ask you about this. You've stolen my.
Oh, sorry.
My big ticket for you.
Sorry. Well, I won't say a lot about it. But it was highly personal because I sounded like a geek. I just sounded horrible, and I didn't want to share it with anybody. But I figured out how to edit it out. Anyway. One of the comments that I remember, I won't say anything more than this, Warren. One of the comments I remember him saying was, he said, because I asked him what music he liked from the films, he said, I particularly like the space music in Moonraker. And I thought, well, that's really neat. And you think about it, there's been several opportunities in his career to create space music. Star Crash, Black Hole, You Only Live Twice. He did a really great job of creating an atmosphere of space. Yeah. Musically. And so I just thought this was an excellent example. It's one of the longest cues he ever wrote for a film. So I just think it's a great example of some of his genius.
Yeah. Well, this is our version of Flight into Space. See you on the other side of it.
Here we go.
Oh, it's just something
Superbly
else.
done.
Something else that it
Barry.
really is. Barry at his very, very best.
What I
Absolutely.
really like is how he combines that heavenly sound, and then you have military march coming
Yes.
through.
Yeah,
And he's so good at that.
yeah,
And they're on mission. You know, it is an actual battle between soldiers, space soldiers. Well, let's not get too much into that. So it's so fitting to combine those two things.
Yeah.
Perfect pick, Frank. We got the list from Warren, and I only got to pick 2 tracks, and I was so glad that you picked this one. I was like, yes.
best of both worlds.
I must tell you, this is one example of all the things that you have done at Cue the Music. This is one example that amazes me, how you can produce a sound with such a small band that's very close
Yeah.
to a 90-piece orchestra. It's just phenomenal.
It
Absolutely
sounds
phenomenal.
epic. Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the secrets to it. It's everybody playing all the time, and the brass players kill me for it, because even myself, I've done when we've played this in shows, I've put it at points in the show where I thought, oh, I wish I put this in the first half and not the second half, and I'm a bit more tired, because I can feel the tiredness building up in my face, you know, because we're dealing with muscles, and it kind of getting halfway through that flight in space, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get to the end of this piece without
Mouth
falling?
fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. So yeah, it is just one of those things where it's just a case of getting everybody to work doubly hard.
Are there
on
ways,
what they
Warren,
want.
where you can cheat now with modern technology, where you can recreate sounds or something, make it easier for the band?
Yeah, you could do, but we've never done that. There's everything that we do. Everything is completely live. There's only 3 occasions where we cheat, and I really kind of use that in loosely, because I don't think it's even really a cheat. And I told this to the Patreons last week, actually. One of those is in License to Kill. You know, there's the bit in the backing vocals where it goes,
song?
where it goes to kill as a whisper. If you're doing that live, you can't sing it, because
No.
if you whisper it into the mic, it doesn't come out over the band. But if you speak it and you go to kill, it sounds the cheesiest, most horrendous, awful thing ever. So
Are you playing it to a click then?
well, we play everything to a click, but that's not pre-record. Doesn't come as part of a click or anything. It's triggered. So the percussionist has a percussion trigger, and it's on one of the keys. So and this is the other thing, he's got to do it exactly the right moment. If he doesn't hit it at the right moment, so it plays it literally like like a piano note or something. If you think of it like that, he plays it and it goes to kill.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, but he's also on that instrument. He's doing a load of other things as well. Because on License to Kill, you've got all those sort of synth toms, haven't you? Do you know that bit from the beginning?
Yeah.
And then there's also like finger snaps, and there's a wood block as well, and it's like things like that. And there's a tambourine hit as well. that we use them on the trigger rather than the real tambourine, because a real tambourine sounds too dead. On the track has got tons and tons of reverb.
Yeah.
So to get the sound absolutely right, rather than Matt playing a tambourine and hitting it on his hand,
being lost in the sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pre-recorded, but he hits the tambourine on that. So when he hits it, you get all that reverb tail as well.
But I understand now what you mean. That's not cheating, Warren. That's just
it's still played live
as good as you can.
Yeah. The only other time that it is cheating is the bass lines in the Majesty's Propellerheads remix that we do, and Backseat Driver. But even Backseat Driver, Jez triggers that. So you got that. So he plays that on the first beat of each bar, because I mean, you couldn't play that for 5 minutes without it just being a mess. But
so that's all on one key.
Well, yeah, but then obviously each time a key changes, he has to play it on a different key.
Love it.
So, but I mean, he also has to play a load of other stuff at the same time. So yeah.
Warren, for anyone that doesn't know, can you tell everyone what David Arnold said to you about playing Backseat Driver?
Yeah, okay. I don't normally do this on the public ones, but he said that we're effing nuts. He said you're nuts. I wouldn't do that live. So yeah.
He's also said some very nice things too, Warren. To be fair.
He has. Yeah, no, he's
you can take this as a compliment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who picked that one then? Was that Frank? Frank, yeah. I just don't remember who picked that one. Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that I love about John Barry and his space music is, there's two things, in fact, that I think really make it. I think it's his phenomenal chords that he chooses. You know, he has the ultimate kind of grasp of what chords to use where. But then I think he's also one of the greatest orchestrators that's ever lived. And he used to orchestrate all of his own music around that time. Mm-hmm. Up until I think View to a Kill, Living Daylights, he did a lot of it himself. And that's a real skill in itself. And even people like John Williams doesn't really orchestrate his own music. And probably, to be fair to him, it's probably as much down to time as anything. And I think John Barry didn't always do that later on. But particularly in this early day, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, Majesties, Moonraker, those sort of films, they really benefit from, I think, from having a combination of a composer not only writing it, but then deciding where it's going to go. I think it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I think what would be interesting is that if people who've never seen those films or heard that music, if you had them just sit down and listen to the music, no pictures, no background, no nothing. Barry had a way of, I don't know how to say it, but he would set the mood or set the atmosphere that you could intuitively understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, even my wife, I remember she had nursery school kids, pre-kindergarten. She played the line in Winter. These kids had never seen that, obviously, and all of a sudden they kind of started doing sword fights and all this kind of stuff. I mean, they kind of intuitively knew what to do. He was a magician at that.
Well, Frank, let's try it out. We have some people in the chat. Are there any people that have never seen Moonraker yet?
I think we're going to struggle.
What did you think about when you were listening to that track? You can write it in the chat.
That'd be interesting.
Underwater.
Yeah, if you can just forget, if you can just forget that we introduced the name of it, just put that out of your mind. Don't let that
details.
Absolutely. Somebody's just asked me a question, so I'm going to answer it. I'll try and keep up questions as they pop up. I've missed a load of chat as I was chatting. Do Cue the Music ever practice non-Bond Barry songs? We don't really do any rehearsal, I have to be honest. People always ask me that. It's normally a case of turning up to a show, everybody gets all their parts ahead of time and recordings, and everybody turns up prepped, and then we will run it, if we need to run it a few times on the sound check until everybody's happy, and then we just go for it. And sometimes that can be pretty hairy, and most of the time it works. But yes, there you go.
Well, that shows how professional you are. I mean, that's and I remember asking several composers on my podcast. I said, how much time do you take to rehearse? He said, rehearse? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's red
Throw the
light.
sheet music, we throw the sheet music in front of them and we go.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
that's how good they are in sight reading and playing.
Yeah.
And your band's obviously an example of that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's the red light saying that, you know, that rehearse with the red light on. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, you know, occasionally we've had the opposition come in who's probably not quite up to that, and that it's one gig and done for those.
Yeah,
you know, it's a very short life cycle with Cue the Music, but no, I mean it seems to work for us, and with all these tracks that we recorded, the non-title tracks last year, it was turning up on the day, play it through, record it, move on. I mean, we did 100 tracks in 4 days.
Jeez.
Yeah, I don't know how we did it. I still don't know how we did it.
What?
Well, to go back to Ty Lord's question.
Yes.
Good question. Do you ever practice non-Bond Barry songs? I've just been going through a phase where I'm trying to watch as many films of the 60s that are scored by John Barry and also listen to the soundtracks. And the theme to Ipcris File is very distinctive. And then he did another spy theme, and I just discovered this a few days ago, the Quiller Memorandum, which is completely different again.
Oh, I've just realised I misread Tyler's message. Actually, I didn't read it properly. Practice non-Bond Barry songs. I've got it now.
Go.
Yeah.
But those are spy related.
I was just looking at practice. Yes, non-songs. I was thinking. No, we don't. And do you know what? People have asked me about doing other Barry stuff, but I think the trouble is with it, it's just about the market size of it. You know, it's even doing the non-theme songs is something I have to be really careful on, because when we do live concerts, a lot of people come to see the songs. So if we start putting in too many of the cues, people are like, well, you know, it gets really hardcore.
Casual fan, like.
Yeah. We did Flight into Space once in one theatre, and a couple of people got up and walked out to go and get a beer early. And genuinely, and somebody in the band said they heard. So you were there actually, Don. Do you remember the show at Camberley that you came across for? When we did Flight into Space, do you remember it? I'm sure you came. I'm sure you came to that. Anyway, whatever.
Quite a few.
Yeah, but anyway, there was one of the band was in at the break was in the loo and said that they overheard two people talking in the toilet saying, "Oh, they're a great band, but I didn't really like all that brass band rubbish they were doing, talking about Flight into Space." And you hear that, you're like, "Oh."
Well, you sold the ticket already, so that's good.
Oh God,
Philistines!
All that rubbish, the stuff that kind of wins Oscars, you know.
Yeah.
God.
Let's have some more music. Who's next? Chris, you're going to come up next, I think.
Right,
And before you do, let's just a couple of questions. We've got some nice general questions here. What's your favourite James Bond car? Let's go round quickly. I'll go first while you think. Mine's going to be very easy. It's the DB5, the classic. I'm always going to go with that, I'm afraid. I just think it's so iconic, and that's just going to be me all over. Chris?
Mine's easy. The Daylight's Vantage, all day long. Ice Chase.
I love that close second.
Yeah.
That would be my go-to answer as well, but I'm going to go to something a bit more affordable.
Yes.
Which is the yellow Citroen.
Yeah, lovely.
What, from Fiore's only?
That's something I might actually be able to drive. There you go. There you go.
I've got them all lined up here, although I've got a couple behind. What about you, Frank?
I'm sorry, it's a tie between the Daylight's Aston Martin and, I'm sorry, the Lotus Esprit. I just love it.
My two favourites as well, Frank. I'm with you there.
There you go.
Which one? Which one though? Which one are you going for? Fiore's only or Spy Love Me?
I have to go with one. What the hell? Lotus Esprit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. No, I meant which Lotus, because there's two, isn't there? There's
not the turbo in For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah,
the original and Spy.
Yeah, the convertible
or whatever. I mean,
absolutely. Right. Let's have your track then, Chris. Sorry, I interrupted you mid-flow.
No, not at all. So this is a perfect segue, because we're going to play Space March Top Trumps, okay? So I think I may have won, but it's just my own opinion, okay? I'm going to go Capsule in Space.
Yes!
You Only Live Twice.
Yes!
Yeah.
Here we
Hat
go.
speed.
Great track. Oh,
Yeah.
loved it.
See you in a second.
My lifeline! Yes.
And that's how you play it. That is how you perform it. Come on. How beautiful was that?
I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I'm not happy with that. If you want to be like ultra critical, does anybody spot what's wrong with it? Let's see if anybody in the chat, anybody on the present. Anyone
wrong with it? Are you joking?
Anybody spot what's wrong with it?
In the third bar, the fourth note was off. Okay, I don't know.
Come on.
It's my fault as well. It's my fault. The whole thing is my
lacking,
fault.
I think it was lacking Warren doing the Hawaii. I think it needed a bit of Hawaii. Yeah.
I'm just waiting to see if anybody gets it in the comments.
It's too. Matt.
I'll tell you. Shall I tell you what it is? Shall I tell you what's wrong with it? Sure. It's too fast. It's too fast. I took it too fast on the day. It's one of those things where I'd written the metronome mark down on the part, and when we got into doing it, I should have listened to it again. But when we played, it felt really slow when we were playing it in person, and I'm like, no, I've got this wrong. And so I took the metronome mark up. And then, of course, you're done then. You're stuck with it. And it wasn't until I played back off and thought, oh, no, it's too quick.
Do you know what? I think you're too close to it. I think everybody else here loved it.
You know, one of the things I know.
How much shorter is it then now?
It's not. No, it's not so much the. Well, it's probably. I don't know how much shorter it is. It's. I don't know. A few seconds, but it's just too. What I mean is the tempo of the piece is too quick. Yeah. So it should be. It should be steadier.
You're quicker.
One of the things I noticed...
It's much slower. It's much slower.
I remember one of the things I noticed when I saw Barry in concert in 1999 in the UK. Was I remember...
Frank, you're old.
Yeah, and I was, I was like 17, okay? Whenever. But anyway, one of the things I remember was it struck me as that I thought he played... The orchestra was playing everything just a hair fast.
Yeah.
And I guessed it was just the, the adrenaline or whatever. So I understand what you're saying. I mean, Yeah, it's very minor. People aren't going to notice it, but I understand what you're saying.
I do.
Yeah, it was a tad.
I do. I tell you, Frank, you are absolutely right, and it does drive me nuts when I go and see concerts and the speeds are wrong. Like it's something. Like it's why we play everything, absolutely everything, to click track, because it's the thing is, it's not just about the attention to detail. Actually, certain things, certain pieces just don't work if the groove isn't absolutely bang on. Like a classic example is "License to Kill." You know, when you're in the adrenaline of the show and everybody, the energy's underneath it, it will pick up speed. It's just a natural thing because it's quite a slow song. And, you know, I think you can really let that run away. And so actually playing to a click really just holds everyone down, and it really makes you sit on that beat, and it just gives it a whole different dynamic. And I do think that's one of the things that makes a bit of a difference, in my opinion, of, you know, why people like what we do, because it is just that discipline that we have in everything that we do.
Everybody's so concentrated. I was just noticing earlier, and during that track that played too fast. But I was telling that Matt behind the percussion, he was so concentrated.
Yeah.
Focused. And
they had to be, because the amount we had to get done over like 4 days, it was so intense. It was brilliant fun. We loved it, but
that click track is nothing other than like a metronome inside your head, right? It's like
it is literally
the time.
On the 50th Majesty's anniversary concert, I put it through the PA just so that people would, because it was all friends in the audience. It wasn't like a theatre show, and I don't think it's in the final DVD edit or anything, but I put it just so people can hear it. And because the click track only goes into the musicians' in ears, but I got Karen, our sound engineer, to put it out the front, and it is literally donk 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 for 2 hours. It's amazing that my poor musicians are still sane.
Why
really.
do they put up with it?
Yeah.
Probably have to.
But you know what though, they love doing it. Actually, that they actually prefer it, because it does, especially with a band so big, spread out on stage, and everything else. You know, you haven't got that. Sometimes with bands, you get a discrepancy between one side of the stage and the other.
Warren, I remember up in Pete's Gloria 2 years ago. You were up there.
Yes.
The final, the suite, the Majesty suite that you had John Ward conducting.
Yeah, we didn't have a click for that. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, but that was like proper old school.
Well, yeah, but the thing is about that, right? So we did, for one time we've had a conductor, but if you're going to have somebody cue the music, who better to have than someone who's a massive Bond fan, who has gone to the Majesty's 50th and who's also a conductor. That is what he does.
It was brilliant. I was standing like 1 meter away from him, from behind John Ward. It was absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
just go back in time 2 years, and I don't know, forget about this whole COVID thing and be back up there.
I know, man. Thing is, you were there, like to really off the cuff here, but off script here. But I don't know about you, but I found that period after that event just so hard to kind of come back to normality, because it was such a high.
How do you top it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just go back to normal life. I guess. Yeah.
Go back to the family. I don't mean that. Don't mean that, honestly.
Hey, I'm a big star now.
I didn't say that.
The door's going to open in a minute.
Warren, I have a question about the band.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you audition for Cue the Music, have you got members of the band that are sort of fair weather Bond fans and kind of like, okay to Bond, or does everyone need to be a diehard Bond fan? What's the kind of demographic we have?
There's a mixture. There are a few diehards. There are some who are, neither here nor there, and there are those. No, I don't think there's nobody in the band that doesn't like Bond. I mean, you'd be pretty bored if you were doing the same set, But there has been a few people that have joined the band and become Bond fans, like the sound engineer Karen. She when she first joined, I wouldn't say she knew everything about Bond, but then every now and again, we'd be in the middle of a conversation about, I don't know, underneath a mango tree, and she'd go, "Oh, that's the one from Dr. No," and stuff. And suddenly, like, she's starting to learn all this stuff.
Cool.
It's like, oh, this is it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Chris, let me throw it back to you. Tell us a little bit about what you do, because there's a guitar behind you there, and you are I'm going to say this for you because you probably won't say it, but you are a very, very talented singer, guitar player that I putting a lot of covers out on Instagram, and all really from what I can see, just for a bit of love and a bit of fun.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. No,
can you play us something, Chris?
For me, it's just it's not plugged in. Yeah,
it was a good excuse.
Yeah, it's a good excuse. No, I just absolutely love playing guitar and singing. It's my escape, really. So I do my day job, which can be sometimes a little bit stressful. And I come home and I think, right, what am I going to play today? I don't practice anything. I just hop onto the chords, check the lyrics, and just give it a blast. And if it doesn't sound great, it doesn't sound great. If it sounds good, it sounds good. But with Bond, it's I mean, that was something that obviously I was sharing the records and things, and I thought that would be my little niche. But then I realized, I could do some little interpretations on guitar. Obviously, nothing like Cue the Music level.
Oh, you can't say that. We're going to improve that in a minute, my friend.
It's just for me, it's just a nice hobby to have. And when you get people coming online and saying, "Oh, that was good, Chris. I enjoyed that." That is literally my night made. I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's all I do it for.
Well, okay then.
Can I ask Chris a quick question?
Go for it.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Have you heard the music on vinyl, like from the 60s and 70s, and then on vinyl from the current day, and what, if any, difference have you noticed?
Absolutely. So I'd say the sort of purist in me hates to say it, but honestly, the newer releases sound better.
Why is that?
I think to be honest, it's a lot to do with the equipment. It's to do with how heavyweight the vinyl is. But I think ultimately, some of those early 60s records that you pick up secondhand, have been worn in. They've been loved. Someone's played them, and they've got their own charm. The pops and crackles are lovely. But if you're I picked up Casino Royale, which was released recently. I mean, like a year ago or something.
Oh wow! I bet that sounds good.
It sounds absolutely stunning. It sounds stunning, and I think there's it's probably sourced from the digital tracks. I think there's different ways that you can press the vinyl, but when you listen to it, it sounds absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would definitely say from a audio sound point, I'd listen to the newer records in terms of quality. Yeah. But then all my favorite
maybe I need to pick up a few then. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And they're expensive.
That's your wish list.
Yeah.
They're so expensive. Yeah. It's not cheap. It's an expensive hobby to have. Yeah, absolutely.
Chris, tell us a bit about City of Lovers. Tell us what it is, how it came about, and set it up, because we're going to play it in a minute, and I'm very excited to share it with our...
Yeah, so it was. I just decided I wanted to do a few covers. So I started with one of my favorite themes, which is sort of the Winton Kid theme. So I started with that, and then I got some nice comments from friends on Instagram, and I thought, what would be a nice sort of modern era Bond song to put into guitar, because the Barry stuff is more recognizable. It's a bit more obvious. So I thought I'd deep dive, go a little bit obscure, and go to something that pleased me. So City of Lovers is one of my absolute favorites of the whole series. I absolutely adore that song.
Yeah.
So I thought it would sound nice in sort of I use the term loosely, but like sort of a Hank Marvin sort of guitar driven piece.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just threw it up. I got Billy, who's actually in this chat here now, to do the artwork. So thank you very much, Billy. Yeah,
Billy is an absolute legend. He designed our podcast art, and
he's incredible.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about Billy, before we go on to the City of Lovers, here's your artwork here for your Bond on vinyl. Is that the one you're talking? That's the one you're talking about.
That's great.
That's the one that.
Great.
Yeah, that's not the one Billy did.
That
is
sorry. Sorry, Billy.
No,
that's great.
Which is the one that Billy did for you? Is it the one with all the bits and pieces on the desk?
I asked him, can you draw M's desk? And he said, sure. And then I had all these comments. It has to be this, it has to be that. And it's absolutely brilliant.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hadn't thought we were going to bring Billy up, but I would have put his beautiful Mayday poster that he did, the picture that he did. It was such a kind guy. When we sort of were really thrown under the bus like everybody else last year with COVID, he drew a load of these prints and then drew Mayday print and then got it printed, I should say, and sold off the copies and gave all the proceeds to Cue the Music, which was just unbelievable. Somewhere behind here I've actually got a copy of it on my wall, and I swear it is there. It's just round the corner. It'll stay on my wall for the rest of my life, because that just symbolized unbelievable gesture, and it just amazes me as a Bond fan that someone else, that Cue the Music has made that sort of enough of an impression for someone to make that incredible generous gesture. A really great guy, Billy.
Lovely guy.
Yeah.
Can we listen to City of Lovers now?
Let's listen to City of Lovers. So this is Chris Wood. This is your video. You can check it out on your channel at Bond on Vinyl if you want to see it again.
And thanks to Spency as well, who created her Vesper interpretation, because she absolutely smashed that as well.
She does, yeah. It's great. And we're going to announce a little something about this piece afterwards as well, which would be quite exciting. So here we go. Have a listen to this. Absolute brilliant bit of work by Chris.
is bloody brilliant.
It's amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's so emotional.
Sorry, Frank, you muted. Hang on. Say that again, Frank. I lost you there.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I know the track. I've listened to it several times. We even included it in one of our podcasts. But it gets me, man.
Yeah.
It strikes a chord. And I'm feeling emotional all day already because I'm not sure if you know this, but I'm a bit of a domino nut. And today would have been Claudine Augier's 80th birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a few posts
This
about it.
song, oh man, this is so powerful and romantic. And,
It's a wonderful cue.
It really is.
I'm so in awe of what you are able to do.
Yeah.
I'm just messing about with my microphone a bit, trying to, I don't know, talk about like this, like that in a podcast. But this, if you can create this.
I think the music in... Sorry, I was saying I think the music in Casino Royale, particularly the Venice part of it, is arguably the most beautiful, emotional music in the whole series, but certainly up there. I mean, I'd say it's comparable with anything that John Barry wrote. In my humble opinion, there'll be people shouting they disagree, but the Vesper stuff, all of that is brilliant. And Chris, amazing version, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.
And you got some nice comments from David Arnold about it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, which was I was over the moon about. Yeah, because that was.
What did he say?
He said, "Wouldn't have thought about doing it on guitar. Like lovely stuff." It was like one line, and that was my year made. Yeah, yeah, I was happy with that. Yeah.
So I love it so much that I came up with an idea I'd put to you, Chris, and you very kindly agreed that we're going to team up at some point on our next theatre tour, and you're going to come and guest with us and perform that with Cue the Music as backing you, aren't we?
It'd be an honour.
That is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, please really don't good. Tell.
I love how Warren's worded that as like, "Oh, Chris kindly agreed."
I know, honestly,
it's a huge favour that Warren's doing. So thank you very much, Warren. Appreciate it.
It's a union of two fans of David. I mean, City of Lovers is one that I've sort of had on a to-do list, but it's not one that works for Cue the Music. And we always do. We don't really normally do cover versions, as you know. They're very much basically transcriptions and orchestrations, but that is really a cover, and I just fell in love with it when I heard it, and I thought, wow, it really works. It works stupendously well, and what a great way to team up with someone in the community and do something together. That'll be brilliant.
Can I ask you, Warren, if I'm being very selfish here, because I've been over to the UK several times, even especially to see you guys. And this is something that I would very much like to be part of, to just sit in the theater. But now with COVID and the UK being out of the European Union, I'm not sure if I'm ever allowed back in there. So can you tell me in advance when you're planning this? And I will do everything in my power
to
bring,
absolutely.
To get over there and maybe bring one or two of the kids along as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't even know when we're playing really next year at the moment. We're just going to have to sit and see
22, 23.
Yeah, 22. Definitely 22, but I'm sure.
60th anniversary.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But that will be, really looking forward to that. It'll be brilliant. Amazing comments for you, Chris, and rightly so.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
But
really
so, just remind people, if people want to go and check out what you're doing, because you're doing that's not the only Bond cover, you're working on some other stuff, aren't you? A bit of a team up with Tom Sears from JBR.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've done a couple. I've done the Winton Kid theme. I did The Wedding, which is another one of my favourites.
Oh, that's
from
so
the Onion Twice. But yeah, if you want to listen to them, I've got an Instagram, which is just at Bond on Vinyl, and that's where they all are. Yeah.
Go and check it out. Check it out.
Thank you.
Oh, it's good.
What is this David Zaritsky, no kids allowed, Don? I already took my son to Cue the Music. What are you talking about, David?
That was one of his favorites, by the way. He listed it when he was on my podcast. City of Lovers was one of his favorites.
Yeah.
So I bet he loved that rendition, Chris. I bet he did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Frank, as you very cleverly got in another plug for the podcast there, I shall take up that mantle and ask you about what's the Score podcast. Is a fabulous podcast that's been around now for a couple of years. I've been lucky enough to be one of the few people that's been on it more than once.
Yes.
Bribery always works. So thank you very much.
One of the top five.
Well, that's the thing with Dave Zawitsky and I think Joe above me. I thought, well, if I do another one, I was like, can you add the two together so that my listens, downloads come up above them? Either that, or I'm gonna have to get my mum on it double time and get her listening more. Download it on every version that you can find, Mum. But tell us about What's the Score, because it's a great podcast and it's a really different take on the usual kind of Score podcast, I think.
You're so kind, Warren. I appreciate it. I've had a love affair with film music since I was basically, 8 or 10 years old. Primarily John Barry, to be honest. But as the years went on, I started to expand. I liked, Jerry Goldsmith, John Williams, Lalo Schifrin, all those kind of people. And what I thought was it would be interesting to have a podcast with people somehow connected to the film community. And it could be loosely connected or directly connected. So, I've had composers, directors, actors, but I've also had people like yourself that are kind of in the community.
Randoms.
No, you know what I'm saying. Say that. People that are supporters of film or art in one way or another, and share their love of film music. Share with us, 5 to 7 of their favorite cues.
Yeah.
Talk about why they like them, but also get to learn a little bit about them and their career and things they have coming up in the future. And so, I've met some incredible people that I never dreamed I would ever talk to. I never dreamed I'd talk to George Clinton or Lee Holdridge. Names escape me at the moment. Other composers, and it's just been personally been fabulous for me, and hopefully for my listeners as well.
Yeah. What I love about the format as well, Frank, is that as a listener, every single week is a different kind of set of cues and songs and bits of music from films. That if you're not someone that has time to really dive into a whole vast, limitless library of music, that you're kind of dipping in and your listeners are pulling out little things that you might not have heard before, and it's a really great way to sort of widen your musical score knowledge, I think.
It's expanded my catalog. There's no doubt about it. I've heard cues and composers that, quite frankly, I didn't know very much about, and so it's been expanding to me, and that's one thing I love about it as well.
Yeah.
I've listened to the podcast for a while, Frank, and I think one of my favorite episodes was where you interviewed John from James Bond Radio, John Williams. And there was loads of cues during that episode that I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for your podcast. And I've actually discovered the films. So I've sort of gone 3D. I've gone from the song to the film, and that's because of what you're doing. So thanks for that. Yeah, it's a great podcast for anyone who hasn't heard it.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us. I've just put the artwork up for it. Where can people catch it if they want to hear it? It's on all the podcasts.
Okay. I can. Okay, well, I'll do that.
I'm sure you will, Frank.
Trust me, folks. I don't really make any money on this, but I just love it. I do it for the love of it. Yeah. www.whatsthescore1, that's all one word, whatsthescore1.podbean, all one word, .com.
Fantastic.
But it's also available on all the other major, it's on iTunes, on Stitcher, on, most of the major podcast avenues that are out there.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
It is really good.
Thank you.
Really good.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Right, let's have some more music. Who's up? Oh, yes, me up next. I thought I'd pick a song.
You get a choice.
I know. I thought, you guys have all picked cues, and I thought for the guys who like to hear Kerry sing and hear some songs, I thought I'd pick a song.
Not of that brass. What was it they said in the toilet? That brass.
The brass band rubbish. Yeah. Yeah, Frank, if you can type in the comments, can you type the address while we're playing?
yeah.
Someone's
Yeah,
asked. Someone's asked for
How
it.
do I type in the comments? I can read them, but I can't type.
You have to log
Oh.
in at the top, Don. I think. Just do it there somewhere.
Right, while you guys sort that out, let me play. So I'm going to play "The World Is Not Enough" for you all. I think it's a really underrated song, actually, and I really enjoy it. Yeah, I really like it, and I was this. I mean, if I can say that I was a bit happy with what did I say earlier? Capsule in Space. I was really happy with how this one came out. I think this is my favourite recording of this that we've done. So I hope you all enjoy this one.
Fabulous.
I know how to hurt. I know how to heal. I know what to show and what to conceal. I know when to talk, and I know when to touch. No one ever died from wanting too much. The world is not enough. It's such a perfect place to start, my love. And if we're strong enough, together we can tear this world apart, my love. People like us know how to survive. There's no point in living if we can't feel alive. I know when to kiss, and we know when to kill. If we can't have it all, then nobody will. The world is not enough, and it is such a perfect place to start, my love. And if we're strong enough, together we can tear this world apart, my love. I feel safe. I feel scared. I feel ready, yet underprepared. The world is not enough. It is such a perfect place to start, my love. And if we're strong enough, together we can tear this world apart, my love. The world is not enough. The world is not enough. No, nowhere near enough. The world is not enough.
Perfect.
Hey, we're back. Oh,
Stunning.
Don's locked himself out. Hello, Don.
Yes. I
You're back.
tried Chris's advice by logging in so I could add to the comments, but then it just threw me out of StreamYard.
The Don is not
to
enough.
worry. Hey, we've got a couple of questions
Yes.
that we can answer here. Let's have a look.
That was absolutely beautiful, Warren, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love it. I
Lovely
get
track, but
I get
very
lovely
good
chills from that
condition.
one.
That's a
great.
gorgeous one.
Yeah. Where did it go?
Was that also written by Don Black?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don Black and David Arnold. Here's the question. So, question. Which do we prefer, the older power ballads or the newer, more emotional Bond songs?
Older, all day long.
Yeah.
What are some of the older power ballads? What do I have to think of then?
I think, probably Nobody Does It Better is one. I wouldn't say there's so many in terms of power ballads, just power songs. I don't think you would necessarily. The ballads to me are kind of all-time high, For Your Eyes Only, when I think of ballads. But yeah, the sort of old. Oh, Frank, you're muted again. Let me unmute you.
Oh, I am. Oh.
Frank, yeah, sorry, I've unmuted you. Have you got any sort of way that you tend to lean on this one?
You hear me?
Yeah, can you?
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely more into the more traditional power ballads, without question. And Nobody Does It Better is a good example. So is Goldfinger, obviously, and Thunderball, and those had more. Call me an old fogey, but some of these recent songs, I'm sorry, they just don't. They don't do it for me. I'm sorry.
I have to say though, and I know that I'm in a minority here, but I really like Another Way to Die.
You are definitely in the minority.
Brilliant though, Don. As if you took the guitar
I will say I liked Casino Royale, by the way. I did like that song. That's my favorite of the more recent efforts. I did like that.
I think Skyfall's a classic, guys. I've got to say, I think Skyfall will be Goldfinger level of iconic in another 50 years.
Got shout out for Moonraker here.
Generation clash going on here. Frank can't cope with it. How about The Experience of Love then?
What's funny is I rather like that, surprisingly. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of like it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you can talk about tastes all day, but yeah, we're not going to concur on everything, I'm afraid.
The thing is about Bond though is that there's just so many opinions across the board. Like for anyone that tuned into our list of top Bond songs to play, which was done by the band putting in their list, and then I sort of worked out where the list came if you put it all together, and I think literally almost every single song came either top or bottom for someone. Or within the bottom few. It was so diverse. It was almost crazy to try and put it into a list. And in the end, it kind of worked out roughly how I thought it would, which was very, very different to play as it is to listen to, or in terms of iconic nature and stuff. But, even just looking through the comments here, the vast difference, there's people here supporting Another Way to Die, but then you've got like Alan here saying it's pretty dire.
Alan, fantastic.
We don't know if he was talking about Another Way to Die, though.
I think you'll probably find it is.
It's not like I go off and hum that song, anytime soon.
Okay, in case there's any doubt, this guy is a great router has left no doubt on his comment.
But can I just say, what I always like when I listen to Another Way to Die is there's this part where Alicia Keys is just making it up as she goes along. And she says something that's like, shoot 'em up, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And that kind of sounds like how all you English people try to pronounce my last name. Shoot 'em up. Shoot 'em up. I always hear like Zuiderman or something in there.
Don't shoot 'em up, bang, bang.
Chris, I've done a podcast with you before. You're really into the lyrics side of things, aren't you? You really got appreciation of them.
100%, yeah. And I think going back to what you said about what Warren said earlier about opinions on things, I think that's what's so cool about Bond music. So each week I tend to post a different record, and there'll be something that maybe I'm not a huge fan of. And like, for instance, now here's an example. I'm probably going to get absolutely battered on the comments, but All Time High for me sits sort of lower league, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
But when I post something and say this is obviously a record of mine, but it falls in my lower league, someone will comment and say, "Well, this is my favorite because of X." And then what I'm pretty good at doing, which I really enjoy doing, is wearing their hat for a minute and listening to it with their ears. And I think there's a ways to appreciate stuff from someone else's perspective, you know. And I think a lot of the themes have improved, like License to Kill. Like, and I know, Warren, you've just talked about it now, saying, you know, you like playing that one, but it's one of those ones where I'm like, for me, it's been a lower league Bond theme. But then the more I listen to it with someone else's comments and think, do you know what, I really like that song. So I think having a conversation with people and talking about it, rather than, I mean, there's other franchises, I'm sure, where you'll put an opinion out and someone will absolutely batter you for that opinion, and you'll be absolutely battered on the comments. What's lovely about Bond is you'll say something that maybe is the unpopular opinion, but people will say, well, I appreciate your opinion, and I can see where you're coming from with that. Do you know what I mean?
It's wrong.
Yeah, and it's wrong. Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
No, well put, very well put. Yeah.
Well, I miss the days where you would hear the theme song throughout the score.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, it was something that kind of held the story and the score all together.
Yeah.
And when you don't have the composer doing the theme song as well as the score, I don't know. There's just something missing to me on that. And I don't know if John Barry was the first one who did that, but he certainly pioneered it. For like.
Well, Goldfinger is one of the earliest films, obviously, third in, and that film is the prime example of that. I mean, Goldfinger is literally in every single cue, isn't it? Probably.
Just about, yeah.
I would think that's probably the best example of all the films. I don't know if is there a film that's got more of the song put into the cues than that?
No.
I don't know if anyone in the comments wants to disagree with me.
I've got to say,
you're very confident there.
I watched From Russia with Love recently, and God, do they shoehorn the Bond theme? Christ on a bike. Like, we're going to have a little peeky, a little sneaky peek behind a frame to see if we're bugged. You know what I mean?
But that's what you need, right? I mean, that's what I would like.
There's a time and a place, Tom.
When I walk about the house.
Yeah. Lots of nice comments agreeing with everything that we're saying on that. Don, coming to you, tell us a little bit about 00 Files.
Oh dear. Well, what can I say?
You're not selling it, Don. You're not selling it.
I know I'm rubbish at saying things about what I actually do. This is the story of my life. I think it all. I've liked podcasts for a very long time, and I was first podcasting for my work, which is in education. But then I got a bit tired of that, and in a way, somehow, everyone that I know from James Bond is related somehow or another to JBR.
Yeah,
it all comes back to Tom and Chris for some reason.
Same for me.
It was probably Tom who said something like, "If you like something, you better go balls deep in it," or something like that. I don't know, something like that.
Thanks for bringing that onto my show, Don.
Well, there you go. Well, having all these hobbies, I decided, you know what? I just want to focus on one thing, and that's James Bond. And I found a few other nuts here in the Netherlands that wanted to do a podcast with me. And I don't know, it just grows and grows along the way. We sometimes bring in fresh ideas. Sometimes I steal very perfect ideas from excellent, podcasts. Like here, Mr. Frank Wilson has a brilliant format in his podcast. Yeah. So why not use it? Yeah. And that's how the 00 FM interviews were invented, where a guest like you, Warren, gets to pick 7 tracks and we'll talk about whatever is going on in your life, and we'll listen to those tracks, kind of like Frank's show. Except I also want to include fake James Bond commercials. Create those. Those are a lot of fun to create, but it usually takes me about a month to work on a commercial. That's like 30 seconds, which is not a smart thing to do. But hey, I like them. That's it.
I have to jump in and say that you've done some absolutely fabulous shows, and one of the recent ones that you've done, which I think really will appeal to the audience here, is the one on John Barry. It's an absolutely brilliantly put together podcast. I mean, was it 4 hours long or something? But it's on the first part of... Yeah, first part of his life.
part 1. It's going to be probably, we're still making this up as we go. I'm almost finished preparing part 2, which will just cover the 60s. And it will probably be like a 7-show series covering his oeuvre without James Bond music.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I'm working for months and months on that, but it's good fun.
Can I just say, Don, as well, as a listener, I think your enthusiasm is infectious. It's just
you listen to us.
Oh yeah, 100%. So it's just a real nice listen. It makes me smile in the car. So I just thought I'd let you know.
Oh, that warms my heart. Well, Chris, we have to, I don't know, make a date or something and set something up, because I can see a beautiful 00FM interview right there.
Right, gents, we're going to have a couple of tracks.
Absolutely.
Don, what is your next pick?
I forgot. What was it?
No good.
He's too busy basking in the limelight. He's forgotten his next pick.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. I was thinking, when I got the list, Warren, and you sent a list of brilliant cues, what do you pick? So I was thinking 2 things. I need to have my John Barry in there, and I need to have my Shirley Bassey in there.
Ooh.
Now, this is not officially a James Bond song.
That's true.
This is her farewell, sort of say, to James Bond. This is, I'm not sure if it's written, but it was at least recorded and everything after Quantum of Solace came out.
Yeah.
But this is such an emotional song, and it fits the film so perfectly.
Yeah.
And for one of our shows last year, someone asked me if I could play the David Arnold rendition of this song. He actually recorded a version when he was on piano. And I listened to both the Bassey and the Arnold version back to back. And that was an emotional punch. I'm obviously, for everybody who's still guessing, talking about No Good About Goodbye, but brilliant track. And well, taking it back to Peace Gloria, 2 years ago, what do you do if you have to go home from such a trip? There's no good about goodbye. You just want everything to keep on going and never end. But everything that has a beginning has an end. Bittersweet, but just play it. I think this.
Can I just say before you play it, Don, I appreciate that. I love it when someone just wears their heart on their sleeve and is emotional about a song, because that's exactly what it should be. So yeah, well done you.
Here we go, gents. Here we go, gents. Here we go. We're talking too much here.
Where is the solace that I crave? Will it still haunt me to my grave? Too broken to forgive, too painful to relive now. There may be other arms to hold. They'll only keep me from the cold. There'll always be a space, a fact I have to face now. How long does a heart stay broken? How long if the pain's unspoken? No solace in a kiss, no comfort in a sigh, no good about goodbye. My heart is no good at pretending. It knows that the hurt's never ending. No solace in a kiss, no comfort in a sigh, no good about goodbye. There's only so much you can give. Only fool forgets to live. An easy thing to say. The past will go away now. How long does a heart
Well, it's certainly uber Bondian, that's for sure.
It's brilliant. Absolutely
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a
How
great
does she
song.
do that? How does Carrie? I don't know. She can sing anything.
Well, she is a special talent, that's for sure. That's for sure. Frank, you're up next. We're gonna rattle through a couple of these last numbers. What are you picking next?
Do you know, one of the things I found fascinating about film music is that when a composer, or I guess a director sometimes, chooses to put music in or maybe not have music in. These days, I find that movies are like wall-to-wall music, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
I agree.
But I will admit that in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, there was a scene that demanded music. If you watched the scene where Bond breaks into Gumball's safe, if you watched that without music, it would be the most boring 2 minutes in your life. I really just be dull. Nothing would happen. But Barry makes it special. He builds and builds and builds the tension that's going on magically like no one else could. He makes that scene. It wasn't George Lazenby. It wasn't Peter Hunt. Nobody made that scene. John Barry made that scene. And I remember you guys playing it at Piz Gloria, and it brought goosebumps or chill bumps, whatever you want to call them, to me. I just loved it. And so I'd love to hear it again.
Okay, well, this
I'll be
is
back
it.
in an hour.
Gumball safe it is. Here he comes.
There we go. That's really good.
Who's the bass player, Warren?
I love that ending. I love Warren. You nailed it. It still gives me goosebumps hearing that ending, knowing what's going on in the background, and just fabulous.
What did you ask, Chris?
Who's the bass player?
Yeah, Steve King is his name. He might well be watching. Actually, he normally is an absolutely epic bass player. But I tell you what, doing this in Piers Gloria a couple or 2 years ago. That was unbelievable. And that was the end of a culmination of 19-20 minutes of a medley that I put together of cues from Majesties, and oh my goodness, that experience, that feeling.
I remember your reaction when you finished. It was magical. It's like you knew that you guys have accomplished something great, and the crowd felt it too. I mean,
was that when Steven Saltzman went up on stage, gave you a hug, and told you his father would be proud of you?
Yes, he did, and that was just like the roof just came off, didn't it? Everyone just went, whoa! It was just amazing.
We could just reminisce about Piers Gloria.
I know.
That's not fair. Let's not do that.
We've got that coming up next month. Actually, for anyone watching, we are doing a commentary. So, kind of what you've been seeing us do today, we'll be playing out the whole concert, as well as releasing the concert separately, so you can watch it without us jabbering away. But I've got 10 members of the band, including our sound engineer, including the guy who filmed it as well. We're coming together and we're going to do a live commentary for 2 hours whilst the film's playing, and talk about all the different parts of it and take questions from the chat like we have been today.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that'll be something quite different, I think. We're looking forward to that. Well, let's skip on to another track. Who's next? Who's left?
I'm done. I'm spent.
It's Chris, I think. Yes.
It's me. Yeah. So I'm going to sort of give some love for a more lesser appreciated soundtrack. This is one of my all-time top soundtracks. So I'm going to go Daylights.
I love Daylights.
Yeah, I absolutely adore it. It's easily top 3 for me. And I'm going to go Cara meets Bond.
Oh. Yeah, Daylight's definitely one of my favourite soundtracks.
That cover too. That's a brilliant photo.
Yeah. Here we go, gents. Let's chat afterwards. So that actually was part of a medley that we recorded. Goes into Hercules Takeoff, I think. Just What I mean, there's just so much great music in that soundtrack.
Beautiful.
It's ridiculous.
It really is.
Could you pick the medley then, Chris?
Yeah.
I didn't give him that option. I'm saving that. You'll have to watch. You'll have to watch. You'll have to tune in next time.
Yes.
Keep them coming back.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a shame that's his last one, isn't it? Because I mean, he was writing. I think he was writing as good as ever when he stopped doing the Bond
But that's
stuff.
good, right? I mean,
Go out on the high.
at least now we can say, oh, if only he did another one instead of. I really wished he didn't continue after What a Daylight or something. This is way better. Keep him wanting more. I'd say, and then
It's nice to see the
anything.
love coming in for Daylights as well. Like, I thought maybe it was an unpopular choice, but it's lovely to see people love those tracks.
Popular choice. It's Daylights. Come on.
I'm going to answer John's question. Oh, Frank, you muted again. Hang on, I'm muted. I'm just going to answer John's question here. Vinyl is never going to happen, I'm afraid, for us. It's just we don't even make a profit on what we do produce, and you want us to produce vinyl for like this tiny little niche of people. As much as I love you guys and I love your your enthusiasm for authenticity, it's just not there, I'm afraid. That's the thing with the music business now. You've got people who want digital, people who want CDs, people who want vinyl. It's really hard to
It really is.
Yeah.
Like that City of Lovers run on vinyl, they were like 12 quid each to make a single. So I just charged 12 quid. Do you know what I mean? I charged what it cost to make. There's no profit, like Warren said. It's a killer. Yeah.
Yeah, like doing all these lockdown stuff, we lost an absolute fortune doing them. But I mean, it's something amazing to look back on. I'm so glad I did it. I'm so proud of them. But someone's asked a question. I tell you what, I was going to bring this soundtrack up, The Specialist, because I mean, I think everybody knows I've talked about it enough. My dad was a trumpet player who played on lots of soundtracks like Return of the Jedi. He didn't play on The Specialist actually, but he did record an album with John Barry. He recorded two, in fact, the Moviola soundtracks, both of them. Well, they're not soundtracks; they're recordings of
compilations.
Compilations, and he does the trumpet solo on the Specialist track on one of those, which is I'm really proud of, but not the original soundtrack. I think that was probably American trumpet player, but yeah, The Specialist. I was going to say that is, if anyone hasn't ever heard that score, go and check it out because it's almost like an extra Bond score in a lot of ways.
It's like the last excellent Bond score.
Yeah, it is really, really good.
I
love
give that a re-listen then, but
it's really
I don't care
good.
about the film though.
I like the film. I watched it again recently with my wife during lockdown, and it's fun. You got to take one of those films. You got to take your brain out and leave it in a jar. If you can do that, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But Stallone was always quoted as saying that the film was saved by John Barry's music. He said the movie would have been crap if it weren't for the score. And I swear, I mean, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something to that effect. And so he recognized the fact that John Barry really added a lot to the movie.
100%, it makes a massive difference to that film. I mean, I must admit, I do have a lot of love for that film, but I do feel like it's linked to the soundtrack in so many ways because I just adored that soundtrack. It's one of the soundtracks I can remember really getting into outside of Bond and Star Wars, and really enjoying at the time.
Can you apply that rule to any of the Bond films as well? Are there any Bond films out there that we think are saved by Barry's score? Or does Barry just add another... Diamonds? Well, that's actually a pretty good shout.
Yeah. It's a fantastic score and it's a poor movie. Let's be honest.
It was funny because Diamonds actually had a rougher sound to it, more masculine sound than the movie actually was. I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah,
I think what Barry's music does, or certainly did, was it did two things within the film simultaneously. It became a character in its own right, but it also, and this is where music has changed, or film music has changed, it was part of the scene dressing rather than just, it created the scene, I think, the music, whereas now a lot of the music is very much like window dressing. It's almost like I've said this on other podcasts and stuff. In M's office, you when you see a scene in M's office, unless you've watched it 10, 15, 20 times, you don't necessarily notice all those little items that are dotted around the room, 100%. Those tiny little details, but they all make up the scene dressing. And I think that's what a lot of scores have moved towards now. Dare I say, particularly like Thomas Newman, they're not thematic, they're just dressing that are there to pad out the scene, and they don't necessarily stand up in their own right. There will be people disagree with that, and you're entitled to opinion. This is just mine. But I think with John Barry stuff, they very much they make up the whole atmosphere and set the scene rather than just fill the background of it. I don't know 100%. What do you think?
Completely.
Everyone's agreeing. That's easy. Yeah. I'm sure. In fact, where's Mark Ashby? He'll disagree with me.
I'm typing that paragraph now. Like,
why
Mark
are
Ashby's
you wrong?
left when
No, I totally agree. I mean, and I guess maybe that's the old fogey in me that I don't like and appreciate film scores as much now as I used to, because it's really changed over time about how music is used, and melody doesn't seem as important, and it's wall to wall for the whole film. And so I concur. I agree with you. It's really fundamentally changed. I mean, that's okay if some people like it now. Okay, so be it. But I'm just from the old school that I just felt there was a time and a place for it, and a certain mood and that you wanted to do, and so so be it.
Do we have any tracks left, Warren, or not?
Are we going to? Sorry.
Do we have any tracks left to play?
We have one from me to finish out, and I'm going to play it in a minute to wrap things up. Before we do, I do want to just in Mark, he's still here. Mark, he's stuck it out, even though we've started on poor old Thomas Newman.
We apologize for our wrong opinions.
Yeah, but I'm because he's not here to shout for Thomas Newman. I'm gonna say a couple of nice things about Thomas Newman. My opinion on Thomas Newman's scores have softened a lot over the last few years, and there are some really great moments in both the scores. In particular, the opening scene of Spectre is absolutely amazing. The Day of the Dead scene, really, really great. And I also think that Thomas Newman's other scores, there's what was the Second World War one that was all shot like 1970. Thank you. Yeah. His score for that, I didn't even realise I was listening to a Thomas Newman score, and I was really enjoying it and thinking this is amazing. And when I saw it as Thomas Newman, I was like, no, it can't be, because I was a bit anti Thomas Newman. I'm not so sure about him for Bond music as so many other people aren't, but I think he gets he doesn't get the respect he deserves, actually, because he is a fabulous composer. There's no question about it. Yeah. But anyway, I think we're going to wrap it up. Oh, one thing I am just going to mention before I do, I'm going to do my own little plug here, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Scory time.
Who are you, Warren?
Yes. New podcast that I'm doing. If you love your Bond and you love your Bond music in particular, do go and check out a new podcast that I'm involved in with composer Jason Frederick and film historian Gergely Hubay. It's out on all major platforms, including Spotify, and please do go and check it out. You'll really enjoy it. I think we've gone into nauseating detail, but in a good way. They're like mini documentaries.
Actually, three guys.
That a beautiful Wakeman.
Hang on, one at a time. You're all jumping in. Go on, Don. You go first.
Oh, was that a beautiful Ruben Wakeman artwork cover thing that I saw?
Oh, of course. Yeah, Ruben. Where would we all be? Where would everyone in the Bond community be without Ruben's artwork?
Lovely guy.
Yeah. Bless him.
He hasn't done any Bond work for me, but I mean, I guess I'm not. I'm not like 100% Bond community, but anyway, you guys do a terrific job. You've got three terrific experts to really talk about in depth about the scores, and all three of you have been guests on my program, by the way. So I know what you're able to give, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who's interested in learning more about film music, and in particular film music for Bond scores.
Thank you. Yeah, please do go and check that out. Well, gents, thank you so much for joining us. If anybody wants to say anything before we go, just to shout out handles and stuff, I think we've covered everything. But Chris, you're on Instagram. Don, your podcast is out on all major channels, as is yours, Frank. So do go and check these guys out, especially Bond fans. You're going to really love what they've got, and Barry fans as well. Frank, you're never too far away from a Barry score.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
That's my only final message. Thank you.
Lovely.
Pleasure. We're going to leave you guys with another track, another song, Live and Let Die. Thanks for joining us, everybody, and see you all. See you all next
Don,
time.
you guys are amazing. Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks,
guys.
Frank. Nice to meet you, Don.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers.
When you were young and your heart was an open book, you used to say, live and let live. You know you did, you know you did, you know you did. In this ever-changing world in which we live in, makes you give in and cry. Say live and let die. Live and let die. Live and let die. What does it matter to ya when you got a job to do? You gotta do it well. You gotta give the other fella hell. You used to say, live and let live. You know you did, you know you did, you know you did. In this ever-changing world in which we live in, makes you give in and cry. Say live and let